but I totally just heard something.
It's nighttime in the Curfew Tower in Cushendall, Northern Ireland. This 5-story tower was built by Francis Turnley in the 1800s as a place to imprison what he referred to as idlers and rioters. Tonight on Alien Hour, I am going to lock myself in the dungeon of the Curfew Tower down in the basement in order to attempt to communicate with the spirits of any idlers or rioters who may still be imprisoned in this tower. Right now, we are on the 3rd floor of the tower in the living room. We've got a nice fire going here in the Curfew Tower with some Irish turf burning. It makes a really nice smell, very comforting and warm smell. And I want to tell any spirits that may reside in here that I've created this fire and this warmth for you because I'd like to have a warm and peaceful communication with you. It's always good, even if you don't think you're going to have a bad experience, it's always good to take precautions just so that you feel safe. And that goes with extraterrestrial contact, spirit contact, looking for Bigfoot, any kind of interdimensional messages, any kind of astral travel, anything like that. You always want to have a backup plan, even if you don't think anything is going to go wrong, just so that it's there. So I'm going to come over here and turn off the camera, and then we're going to grab it, and we're going to head down to the dungeon to begin our ghost investigation of the Curfew Tower in Cushendall, Northern Ireland. Let's go. The man who built the tower, his name was Francis Turnley, and he would lock people in this dungeon that he referred to as idlers or rioters. So Turnley had a bell on top of the tower that he would ring at 9 o'clock at night. And so idlers was anybody who was out past 9, past the curfew time, because it's called the Curfew Tower. You had to be home by 9, or Francis Turnley would lock you in here. And there was a guard outside with a musket, a bayonet, 2 pistols, and a 14-foot-long pike, which you saw how narrow the hallway is. I don't know how you manage that. But I feel a little bit like the people who got locked in here were Alien Hour kindred spirits. I know I say that a lot, but I feel like there's a lot of people who I really empathize with. But, people who just didn't want to, who wanted to stay up late. It's the middle of the night right now. Dr. Howard does a lot of paranormal research after dark, as all paranormal researchers do. So I just want any spirits who may inhabit this space to know that I feel like we are kindred spirits. I'm currently completely alone in the tower, so anything that happens is either me or somebody who is residing in this space. I'm going to take a moment to just set up a protective aura around myself. What I'm going to do is envision a protective light surrounding my body that forms a barrier that only positive energy and positive spirits can come through. We can still see in here a little bit because of my light from my camera, but for the infrared, we'll shut that off momentarily. If there are any spirits inhabiting this space, this meter that I'm holding in my hand, you should be able to influence it and make the lights on it light up by focusing your energy on the device. So if there are any spirits present, please focus your energy in order to turn on the lights of this device that I'm holding in my right hand. All right. I'm going to move around a little bit. It's a bit cramped in here, so it's hard to keep this in the frame. All right, no readings on the EMF, but I'm just going to set that down next to me, and if it goes off, I'll let you know. I'm going to turn down the light. I'm actually going to turn off this camera, and we're going to switch to infrared mode. Dr. Howard here, still in my lockdown in the dungeon of the Curfew Tower. It's a little later on at night now. We still got our EMF meter going. Haven't seen a whole lot of activity, but I am keeping my eye on it. I didn't mention this before, but I also brought a tape recorder to see if we could capture some EVP, some electronic voice phenomenon recordings. I believe, and I could be incorrect, but I believe that there are two possible types of ghosts that we could encounter down here. We could either encounter the ghost of one of the idlers or rioters that were locked up in this dungeon by Francis Turnley, or we could encounter the ghost of Francis Turnley himself. I feel more inclined to be on the side of the people who we locked up in here, the people who stayed up after curfew, like me, down here in the dungeon in the middle of the night. But Francis Turnley had he kind of changed towards the end of his life. He believed that God had selected him to unify mankind. And in order to do that, he believed that he secretly changed his will to leave this tower and to leave all of the lands that he had bought to the people who lived here and to the people who lived on those lands. But his family, when after he died, they found out about the will, and they didn't like that because they weren't going to inherit the tower or the lands. And so they went to court and argued that Francis Turnley was insane and that he had not been in his right mind when he had changed his will. And in order to argue that he was insane, they talked about specifically his eccentricities. So he liked to walk around, and he'd be frequently seen walking around talking to himself, which I kind of understand. I mean, I think people have seen me out there talking to myself, Dr. Howard, talking to the camera like I'm doing right now in a dungeon in the middle of the night. But he would tie a bandana around, or a handkerchief, sorry. He would tie a handkerchief around his right arm and around his left leg. he would carry 2 umbrellas, and he'd wear a shawl. And this eccentric behavior led his family to believe, well, I don't know if they believed that he was insane, but they wanted the court to believe that he was insane so that they could overturn his will. And in the end, they did. So I believe that the tower dungeon could be haunted either by the ghosts of the people who were locked up in here, or by the ghost of Francis Turnley, because his will was not enforced the way he wanted. So I'm going to ask some questions now, and then we will investigate these EVPs later. Are there any spirits present with us in the dungeon of the Curfew Tower? Who is with us in the Curfew Tower? What is your name? Are you okay with the fact that people are allowed to stay up after curfew in the Curfew Tower? If this is Francis Turnley, do you want the Curfew Tower to be given to the people of Cushendall? If you are a spirit of somebody who is locked up in this dungeon, why are you still here? Side note, I would like to let any spirits who still reside here know that you're welcome to stay here if you want, but also just know that you can leave. You are no longer trapped in the dungeon. Is there any other piece of information you would like to give me? Well, we'll review that tape tomorrow when we get out of here. And for now, I'm just going to shut off the camera and still haven't seen much activity on here. A couple little blips, but nothing consistent. I'm going to check back in a little while.
What? I had the camera off. I was napping a little bit. Something just woke me up. I don't see anything. I don't know if that was just a dream or what that was. But I totally just heard something. Oh my God. Let me see what time it is. It's actually morning. So it looks like we can get out of here, but I don't know what that was. Unfortunately, I didn't have anything running. I'd kind of fallen asleep, unfortunately. But that really startled me. I'm feeling really lightheaded right now. I'm gonna cut the deck. I'm gonna stop recording, and we're gonna go back upstairs. It's morning now. It should be light out. So we're gonna go back upstairs, and I'll catch in from there. I'll catch up with you upstairs.
We're back in the Alien Hour offices several months later, of course, and I know we're way overdue in getting this episode out there. Let's get back to the video though, because I just want to do a follow-up and talk about this video because a lot of really incredible things happened, but I couldn't quite process them right then in the tower as the morning was coming, and I had been, awake and sleeping for a couple hours and awake all night in the tower. We'll talk about the EVPs first, and then we'll talk about what happens at the end of the video after that. And right here in front of me, I just want to share this. This is one of the resources I used before I went to Ireland. The tower is in the Glens of Antrim, and this is a collection of ghost stories about the area. Very good. And the Book of Folk and Fairy Tales of Ireland, really great, fun book if you are interested in this stuff. The fairy tales are really fascinating. I'm going to do a whole episode about that coming up soon once I get that one edited together. When that'll happen, I don't know. Hopefully soon. But this is a good book. This is a good one too if you're further interested in this area. All right, so let's talk about EVP first. Here's the tape recorder I used in the video and in the tower, and it's a good one. And what is EVP? EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena, and the idea is that you use a electronic device. So spirits are made of energy, and you provide them with a substrate, with some kind of electronic device where they can focus that energy into a signal that allows them to communicate. So in this case, we use the magnetic tape on a cassette, and it's important to have this physical substrate. I didn't have a lot of luck using the digital microphone. I had a lot more luck using the analog medium, because it gives them this physical substrate to really focus their energy on, and they can leave messages. The thing is, you can't hear the messages as they're being recorded, because this is it's recording and it's not playing back at the same time. And so as the tape is progressing, they're leaving their messages, and you have to hear them on playback. This is why when I'm recording, I am addressing Francis Turnley directly, because he was my best educated guess based on the research I had done about which spirit would be inhabiting the tower. And I don't get any responses from him. But I waste some time talking to him because he's who I assumed was there, which was a fine assumption, honestly. And then I address questions to spirits more generally, and that's when I get the answers. And this is the way that it has to be, because you can't hear the EVPs as you're going. You can only hear them on playback. So I get 2 extremely clear EVPs, and then several others which I didn't play back slowed down versions in the video because they were unclear, completely unclear. But the 2 extremely clear EVPs I get, the first one, when I ask the spirit who I'm communicating with what his name is, he says, "It's Paul." I ask, "What's your name?" And the spirit says, "It's Paul." Clearly, we were speaking with a spirit named Paul. Later, when I ask for just any other information or sign that the spirit is there, I picked up a clear whistling of somebody whistling, which was absolutely a spirit, because no sounds from the outside world were picked up in that dungeon. So that couldn't have been somebody whistling outside. And Dr. Howard, first of all, you see me, I'm not whistling in the video. And second of all, I'm going to let you in on a little known fact. I don't know how to whistle. It's the best I can do. But that person is clearly whistling a tune, not just my whistle. Clearly a spirit that we picked up. And it only appeared on this recorder. It did not appear on here, which also means that it's an EVP, because it is the ghost. It's not a ghost making a sound in the room. It's a ghost focusing their energy on the magnetic tape in order to leave a recording for us to hear later. I don't know if it was Paul that was whistling, but for now, we are just going to have to assume that it was in fact Paul, the whistling ghost. I want to address the K2 meter real quickly. I believe the reason we didn't have any recordings on the K2 meter is that the recordings we got on here were extremely faint. I believe that this spirit was having difficulty communicating with us. There was a lot of barrier between it and us. And so that's why I think we got evidence on here, but not on the K2. We did have little blips and bloops on the K2 from now and then, but nothing as clear as the EVPs that we received. Lastly, of course, I have to address the end of the video when I am startled awake by, I remember a clear vision of a face and a loud sound. There is a sound in the video that I could not resolve into a better EVP. We weren't recording with this, so I don't have a good EVP. I want to talk about the fact that I'm afraid in the video, because obviously it's not that I was afraid, it's that I was startled, because I always talk on this show and I firmly believe that we should never bring fear into our extraterrestrial, spirit, Bigfoot, interdimensional, any kind of contact. We should never bring fear into that situation. However, I was sleeping, and when you're sleeping, even if it's somebody a friend, your mom, whatever, who shakes you awake, you gotta, right? Because you're asleep and you don't expect to be awoken. And I actually don't think it was worth being afraid. It's certainly startled, but definitely not a moment to be afraid of. Because if you saw, I was compelled before that happened by some energy to wake up in the middle of the night, kind of pan around the dungeon a little bit, and then turn all of my equipment off. After that is when I had this very clear contact with the spirit. And I believe that this happened because the spirit wanted alone time with me, with Dr. Howard. It compelled me to turn off all that equipment so that it could reach out to me directly. And it did leave us with some trace evidence. It left us with physical evidence on this tape cassette. The whistling ghost of Paul really provided me with two things. He provided me with physical evidence on this cassette tape, and he provided me with a personal one-on-one experience. Because if a spirit is communicating with us, it is because they want to be seen, they want to be understood, they want us to know that they are still out there. And so the reason that Paul is reaching out to me is because he wants to have a communication with me. And that is why he appeared to me and startled me awake at the end of the video. So startled, but not afraid. I hope you enjoyed this ghost investigation of the Curfew Tower in Cushendall, Northern Ireland by me, Dr. Howard, here on Alien Hour. I believe that we captured irrefutable proof and astonishing evidence of life after death, of spirits that exist in a dimension beyond our own, but can reach across the veil and communicate with us. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe because we always have lots more content coming your way. And I'll see you the next time it's Alien Hour.